Do not believe the breaking news headlines or the emotional reports that you are seeing on your screens today regarding the sudden intervention. The mainstream media will try to convince you that this massive military operation is solely about restoring human rights or ending a corrupt dictatorship. But history does not care about human feelings or political ideologies, because history only cares about physics and the control of valuable natural resources. I want you to look closely at the map and specifically at what lies beneath the surface of the massive territory known as the Orinoco Belt. It holds the largest proven oil reserves on the entire planet, which is actually more than the reserves of Saudi Arabia and Russia combined. What you are watching unfold in Venezuela right now is not a liberation operation, but a hostile corporate takeover disguised as a humanitarian mission. Welcome back to Hidden Logic, where today we are going to expose exactly why the tanks are rolling into the streets of Caracas right now. This is not a political war between democracy and tyranny. It is a resource war that will fundamentally alter the global energy market for decades. For years, Venezuela was treated as a pariah state that was sanctioned and starving and isolated from the Western financial system, effectively left to rot. But suddenly in January 2026, everything changed overnight, and the United States decided to act immediately with overwhelming military force. Why did Washington decide to kick the door down at this specific moment in history, instead of waiting for sanctions to work slowly? Because the geopolitical chessboard was about to be flipped by a rival player known as China, which has been quietly moving into the region. Beijing was just days away from securing exclusive rights to the massive Orinoco heavy crude oil, which would have secured their energy needs for a century. Washington had two stark choices, which were to watch their biggest rival win the energy war or to physically intervene immediately to stop the deal. They chose to intervene, and today we are connecting the dots that the mainstream media is absolutely afraid to touch or even investigate. Let us analyze the prize, which is the Orinoco Belt, holding over 300 billion barrels of extra heavy crude oil waiting to be extracted. But there is a major technical catch, because this oil is thick and dirty and requires very specific and technologically advanced refineries to be processed. The oil found in the Orinoco Belt is not the light sweet crude you see in movies, but a substance closer to solid tar than liquid fuel. To even get it out of the ground, you must mix it with expensive chemical diluents like naphtha, which Venezuela does not produce enough of. The only country that produces these diluents and owns the complex refineries capable of processing this specific sludge is actually the United States. Venezuela and the US are like separated Siamese twins, because geologically they need each other to survive, and the oil market dictates this relationship. This brings us to the crucial element that nobody is talking about, which is the massive refining network known as Citgo, located inside America. Citgo is a Venezuelan-owned company, but its infrastructure is on US soil, which creates a perfect paradox of ownership and strategic control. There is also a Russian bomb ticking inside this equation, because the Russian state-owned giant Rosneft owns 49% of Citgo shares as collateral. By invading Venezuela, the United States is effectively seizing control of these shares and nullifying billions of dollars of Russian financial leverage in the region. Maduro tried to break this logic by selling to China, but he forgot that geography is destiny in this high-stakes energy game. And today, destiny finally arrived on the shores of Venezuela in the form of massive American aircraft carriers and amphibious assault ships. We must also talk about the official excuse that is being used to justify this invasion, which involves the border dispute with Guyana. The media is telling you that the US Army is there to protect the small nation of Guyana from Venezuelan aggression and expansionism. This is the perfect cover story, because it gives the invasion a legal mass, while the real objective remains the oil fields in the south. They use the map of Guyana as a shield to hide the fact that they are actually securing the Orinoco Belt for American corporations. I want to hit the pause button right here because I need to ask you the most critical and uncomfortable question of this entire video. Do you believe that a superpower has the moral right to invade a sovereign nation just to guarantee its own economic and energy survival? Or is this simply modern-day piracy disguised as a noble liberation mission to fool the public and manufacture consent for a resource war? I want to see exactly where my audience stands on this history-defining moment, so please do not hesitate to share your honest opinion. Go to the comment section right now and type the word justice if you support the intervention, or type piracy if you think it is a crime. I will be reading and pinning the most logical arguments from both sides, so let the debate begin immediately in the comments section below. If you have been watching our current series called The Secret History of VenezuelA, this scenario sounds incredibly familiar to you by now. We told you exactly how the Seven Sisters crushed anyone who defied them in the past, like Enrico Mattei or Muammar Gaddafi. Nicolas Maduro is just the latest name on a very long list of people who thought they could defy the cartel and survive. The Seven Sisters may have changed their names to Exxon and Chevron, but their logic remains that oil must flow in US dollars. This invasion is a direct message to Beijing that the petrodollar is not dead and will be defended with military force if necessary. China wanted to use Venezuela to build the Petro-Yuan system to bypass the US dollar completely and create a new energy order. By taking control of Caracas, the West has effectively cut off China from the Western Hemisphere energy supply and secure its own dominance. You might ask why the United States would launch such a massive invasion for oil when the entire world is supposedly transitioning to green energy. This is the greatest paradox of our century, because the transition to green energy actually requires massive amounts of cheap fossil fuels to build. To build wind turbines and solar panels and electric cars, you need cheap, reliable industrial energy right now to power the factories and supply chains. The Orinoco Belt provides the cheap, heavy energy density needed to bridge the gap between the old hydrocarbon economy and the new green future. We must also consider the role of Russia, which has loaned billions to Venezuela through its state oil company Rosneft over the last decade. With this intervention, Russia effectively loses its foothold in South America, and its loans are likely to be defaulted on by the new regime. This is a double checkmate by the United States against both of its major geopolitical rivals, China and Russia, in a single move. The timing is not a coincidence, because as global tensions rise, ensuring access to heavy crude oil becomes a matter of national security. In conclusion, the flags waving in Caracas may change, and the statues of the old leaders may be toppled by the angry crowds. But the pumps in the Orinoco Belt will keep pumping oil to the refineries in the Gulf of Mexico, just as the system requires. The system protects itself, and if you want to understand the deep history behind this event, you must watch our ongoing series. This event in Venezuela is just a modern replay of an old script that started in 1974 with the petrodollar agreement. In our next scheduled video, you're going back to the moment the petrodollar pact was born to see how the trap was set. To understand the why, you must watch our next episode on the petrodollar pact and the hidden logic that rules our financial world. See you in the Secret History of VenezuelA series.